All right, looks like we're live.
There we go.
Okay. Cool. I don't know. Oh, okay, it's changing on its own. All right, welcome everybody to We Are Worship Wednesday, March 23rd, 2016. My name is Wisdom, and my co-host, unfortunately, Morgan Shirey, was not able to join me today. Something came up, so she's out of town. But I have my friend Robbie Valderrama here. So
hello, everybody.
This is his first time ever using a computer, so I hope this goes okay.
It's pretty amazing, I gotta say.
And before we jump into our topic today, and we have two guests with us, Charles Billingsley and Michael Neale. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having me.
And we want to tell you about our free song of the week at weareworship.com. You can download Grace That Won't Let Go by Gateway Worship. That's the free song of the week. And then the free hymn of the month is The Power of the Cross, written by Keith Getty and Stuart Townend. Both great songs, so you can take advantage of those free MP3s and chord charts by going to weareworship.com. And I'll let Robbie take it from here.
So we're so happy to have Michael and Charles on the broadcast with us today, and wanted to kind of turn it over to you guys and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you live, maybe what church you serve at, and just tell us, if you remember, if there's anything exciting going on with you. We'd love to hear it.
Charles?
You want me to go first? I was going to defer to you.
You go first, please.
Well, I am first and foremost the biggest Michael Neale fan in the country, so I'm be on this thing with him. But I'm the worship pastor at Thomas Road Church in Lynchburg, Virginia, which is has quite a history. Jerry Falwell was the pastor, and now his son Jonathan Falwell is the senior pastor, and of course we're closely tied to Liberty University, which is the most amazing place. It's the world's largest Christian school, and one of the largest schools in the world, actually. And so it's a lot of fun, and we have a great time leading worship with all these students and all these people here in town. But it's an interesting environment because it's a smaller town. There's only 70,000 people in the city, so there's this big giant church in this little community, and so it's a lot of fun. But at the same time, we move fairly slowly. As compared to some other churches, probably in some more urban areas. But we have a good time, and we have a choir, and I know that this is a webinar that has to do with the worship leading choir, and so we've had a choir since day one around here, but I would say that our choir has morphed quite a bit, and we're going to get into how that's happened here in just a little bit. But I'm honored to be with you guys, and honored to be with my buddy Michael.
Yeah. Hey, right back at you, Charles, and Wisdom, you guys. It's great to be with you. And yeah, so I'm here in Dallas, Texas now, specifically Plano, at Prestonwood Baptist Church, and I've been lead worship pastor here now for just about 8 months, so it's fairly new. I've been an artist in residence with Christ Fellowship before that, and choir's always been a part of my DNA, whether from a songwriting perspective or a leadership perspective. And so Prestonwood obviously has a storied history of choir music, large choir, and it's a church that's just rich in that tradition and heritage, as well as a lot of the newer things that are coming out. So we are standing on the shoulders of that, and we're also in the middle of doing a lot of fresh new things that incorporate the choir and make that still a very vibrant part of what we're doing. So it's an exciting time. I'm having a ball here. It's an incredible team here. A lot of great young guys. In fact, we've got a lot of folks from Liberty here that are on our team that are incredible. And thank you, Charles, for that. I appreciate that. You can just keep sending us the very, very best.
Yeah, we want you to have them too.
Yes, absolutely. And so yeah, so as a leader and a pastor and a songwriter, you said to mention some of the exciting things that are going on. I mean, right now we are getting ready to have a night of worship here in about 6 weeks that is all original material that's come out of the house here. That's a very first for Prestonwood.
Wow, how exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting, and we got together with some of our friends like Dustin Smith and Michael Farron and Chrissy Nordoff and Paul Balash and some others that I can't mention yet, but I'm very excited to be mentioning very soon, that are participating in this, and 40 or 50 songs came out of that, and so the choir's singing them, everybody's singing them, and it's called Songs of the People, and it's really not just representing what we're doing on the platform, but it's really what God is saying through His people in the congregation. So the expression, and it's just a fresh wind. There's a lot igniting here. It's exciting. It's a very exciting time to be here, and so I'm very honored to be a part of this ministry and to be here with Dr. Jack Graham and Dr. Jarrett Stevens and a lot of great folks. So anyway, honored to be here with you guys.
Awesome. Well, for a lot of younger, more modern worship leaders, they may view choirs as something that's irrelevant, that maybe is more traditional, and they don't feel like maybe it connects with people, and maybe they don't get the point of choirs. But obviously, you guys really value choirs, and it's a huge part of your churches. Can you tell us your approach and why you value choirs?
Well, I guess I'll jump in first, Charles, and you interrupt me at any point.
Go ahead.
I think for me, the choir is a beautiful representation. It's a microcosm of the body of Christ. It is diverse. It shows incredible generational span, and shows incredible diversity in terms of economic status and racial diversity and everything. It really, from young to old, it spans the generation, and it's not about a single microphone, but it's about a force of communication, of adoration to God. And so for me, I've always loved being a part of leading worship with a choral vibe going on, because it carries the music through the room like nothing else. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity for discipleship in your world. It's a beautiful expression in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And when it's done right, and when it's healthy, and it has the proper perspective, it is explosively powerful and beautiful. And I love how a lot of our choir members, even when they're not on the platform, they're leading in the congregation as well. They're a part of stewarding the culture as well. And so it's just a wonderful opportunity on multiple levels. That's the short answer, but I see it as a huge, huge asset. It is something that has to be pastored and has to be led and has to have intentionality. It cannot. It takes more. More hands mean more effort, and so it takes more things to do. But when it's working well, it's an army. It's an army to just absolutely move worship through the room.
Yeah, that's the word that we actually use for our choir, is an army, because they are an army of worship leaders, and that's the way we view the role of our choir. When I first came here a long time ago, the choir was viewed as that group of people who wore the robes and did the special once a Sunday, and it was for the TV production and blah blah blah. Well, we've completely shifted the mindset of not only the choir but the congregation, in the sense that now the choir is really a representation, like Michael was saying, of who's sitting out there in the rest of the congregation. It's just that they're in front of the other congregation, and their principal role is to lead worship with me. And so I call them my army of worship leaders, and so it has become the energy of our services. It really has. It's like, man, there's a certain amount of energy you can muster up with a band and a couple of singers, but when you add 300 passionate worshipers behind that, and not just from a sonic point of view, but from a visual point of view, suddenly there's some serious power that's added to that moment. Now, The problem is you got a lot of churches that are trying to balance the mindset of having a choir that is for the sake of performing songs plus leading worship, and then you have other ones that are just afraid to go there because it does create a lot of issues with, you got people to pastor and deal with, and you got issues because it's just people, and people bring issues. But you know what? To us, our mindset is far and away better to have this community of believers whose mindset is to lead our congregation to worship every week, knowing that we have kind of created a church within a church that actually can be an incredibly positive sense. It's way better to have that than to not have that energy and that passion visible to the rest of our congregation. So I'm a huge advocate of it, as you can tell Michael is, and I think choirs, I don't know the stats, Michael, you may know, but from what it seems like, choirs are on an upswing around the country, and just because people are realizing, man, we're missing that element, that certain element of this army of worship leaders that just is so visible to everybody. So it's fun, and it adds so much to our worship services. I can't really imagine our church without it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm in the same boat. What he said. Same boat. What he said.
One thing we've done, and Michael, of course, this is our history, but we in the past have had choir robes and a lot of things like that, and one thing we've done is we've tried to eliminate anything that creates a barrier between what's happening in the choir loft and what's happening in the congregation. And because what we want is we want the choir to represent the congregation as a whole, not to be something separate and different or above or beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we're, because of my new arrival here over the last few months, and so much of our early time here is just developing relationships and really understanding the vision of the church moving forward. And Dr. Graham has been very clear with me about really moving everything fresh. Just always be looking to innovate and be fresh and connective. And I think what you said there, anything we can do to remove barriers is what we're trying to do. Our job is it goes beyond presenting our worship to the Lord, but it goes far beyond that into taking up the towel and serving, Joe Banker or Sally Teacher or whoever has come in that day to help them bring their offering to the Lord. Whatever we can do to help them connect and to bring their offering, that's what we're going to do. And so, yeah, losing the robes, that's been a thing here that we've done, and just trying to connect all of that energy together so that we realize that this is not a stage, it's a platform, and it's by and large, a lot of times, I almost want to kind of turn around and go down on the front row and just join everybody, just to try to get away from our the focus and the IMAG cameras and everything being on us. But I think when these guys all come together, it begins to diffuse all of that, and now we're all one voice, one heart, lifting adoration and gratitude to the King, and egos kind of go away, and it's a beautiful thing. It's what the church should look like, I think.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm sorry, you probably about to ask something else. I was just thinking, Michael, about one thing. We have a lot of testimonies and stories out of our choir, and these are people that live and work in the community. And so when your congregation is able to see not just a few, but hundreds of people that they work with and live with around the community who are there just like they are, except there's this one element that's added, and that is that they're a part of leading the worship in that congregation. Man, there's something beautiful that happens in the heart and minds of people, not just in the congregation, but the people sitting up there in that loft. It's a beautiful thing.
Right. Charles, you actually recently released an album. You and Michael wrote a lot of songs together. Michael, you're about to work on some, exciting stuff, release new music from your church. So when you guys write together and with others, do you actually intentionally write with choirs in mind, or how do you approach that?
Well, I'll approach it from an artist standpoint, and I'll let Michael approach it from the writer standpoint, because even though I'd love to write songs with Michael, I'm not a very good writer. I did actually write 5 songs for this record, but none of them were good enough.
I've been waiting to co-write with you, man, and we just haven't been able to get that schedule right.
Well, I'll be honest with you. You know, I write songs, but if I find a song by somebody like Michael Neale that's better, I'm more than happy to record it, because part of what I'm doing as an artist and a worship leader is I'm thinking in the context of, okay, when I'm on a platform and I'm singing this song, man, I want that army behind me. So what will it sound like? What will it be like when I've got them singing with me? And so even though I don't pick every song on a project with choir in mind, I always try to pick 3 or 4, just because I want that element of power. I want that energy, and I want to be able to go into a church and include everybody, not exclude everybody. And so Michael is one of those writers who I think writes with that kind of thing in mind. And so when I'm producing a record, I'm producing it with that kind of thing in mind, and the combination of the two is a great thing.
Yeah, I think as a songwriter, definitely, I'm always chasing a melody and a lyric that, first of all, moves me in the moment, but also when I'm co-writing with people, it's what can we all sing? There's a lot of my writing that is I'm asking the Lord to help me put a song in the mouth of the people that don't do this professionally. And so there's a fair amount of, when you do that, when you chase a melody that I can sing in my car, you know, that I feel like that it enables a broad use of the song. It enables and I don't ever. I start with what moves as an artist or as a writer. When I'm singing it and it's moving me, and I'm by myself and I'm singing this to the Lord, there's a lot of times where I know that's going to probably translate. That's going to come through. And there are certain times where I'll do certain things from an artistic perspective, and I'll filter myself a little bit, because I really want to make sure that we can all sing it. And I think when it comes to choirs, because I have written songs specifically for choirs that would be more presentational in their worship. It wouldn't be as much of, hey, congregation, sing along. I've been in both camps. And even on this new project we're working on, we're looking for those moments where, yes, it's the song of the church rising up, and there needs to be some moments where the choir is featured on a whole different level. So there's both and. So I'm constantly it's a beautiful kind of tension to look for those moments that are engaging and vertical and current and modern and fresh, but that allow the choir to go to places that are a little bit extra, that the congregation just can't go. And so and I love looking for those moments, and they become an additional instrument in the symphony. You know, it's a really kind of a beautiful thing to look at it that way, I think, and that's working for us here. And as we're kind of moving through introducing more new, modern, fresh songs with them completely in mind, that's a huge opportunity.
Well, and sometimes those moments are not some big grandiose, ending or whatever. It's just that, like, for instance, for example, Hallelujah for the Savior. The second time through the bridge is a song on this new project, Wisdom. The second time through the bridge, we stacked choir parts so that the second time through that bridge, the choir is actually singing these big parts. Well, the congregation is not going to necessarily hear or take the time to learn those parts. We don't have rehearsal in church, but the choir, by just simply singing them, takes that song to a whole nother level sonically. It gives the choir something musically to do. It excites them because they're in a place where nobody else is. you know, from a musical perspective, but at the same time, from just an audible perspective, it takes the song to a whole nother place. And so I think those are the kind of moments you're talking about, right, Michael?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Well, we got a question from some of our viewers. Ronald Gray said, Charles, what songs from your new album will be released as choir arrangements?
Well, the ones we do at church. We've got actually Lifeway is sending out, even this week. We've been really tardy on this, but there's a song called Victory, which is an integrity song, the blood of Jesus. It's a pretty much a congregational song, but we actually created, you know, choir charts and orcs for that, and then Hallelujah for the Savior is another one. Let's see, those are the two main ones that we're working on getting out quickly because of the whole Easter season. We're a little late since it's since everybody's rehearsing. We have 1 hour to get everything ready. But there's that, and then there's a couple other ones. There's a song called Mountaintops, which is a really up and fun worship song that's going to be a great, we actually are working on that arrangement right now, and a couple of others, but those are three that are real congregational. Oh, one other one would be Jesus You Are. It's a song that Seth Mosley wrote on this project, and it's very simple. It's just John 14:6, and it's a very simple, straightforward, but we actually have an arrangement of that already too. So Lifeway will be putting these things out, and we're actually making it a resource to where you can not only get the charts, but the lyric video as well, and the stems. So it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of resources available from this project.
Cool. And Minda, I think, she's a volunteer choir director and always looking for songs for the choir. Outside of the ones you just mentioned, do either of you have other suggestions that are great choir songs?
Oh, a long list. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I you know what? I could tell you what we could. In about 6 weeks, there's going to be about 10 more coming out. But right now, I mean, I guess, gosh, that's so broad. There's lots of incredible, Integrity and Capital Resources and Lifeway have some incredible stuff. But maybe there's a way that I could post some specifics later on or something in terms of actual song titles. But yeah.
I'll tell you what we do, and this may not help. Is it Minda?
Yeah.
At all, but here's what we do. Because of the way we view our choir and their role as worship leaders, what we'll do a lot of times is take a very well-known worship song that everybody's hearing on radio and create an arrangement of it that is conducive to the congregation and the choir. Some of the stuff out there is a little bit too octavo-ish for us, to where it looks more like a presentation or a special. We don't really like to do a lot of that. Instead,
Right.
we just really want it to be a straight-up worship moment. But like what Michael was saying earlier, we try to create little moments within the song that make it an exciting moment for the choir still. But there's certain songs that accomplish that really well, and I would say those are the ones that we cater to and the ones that we try to write if we're going to write anything.
Cool. So practically speaking, there's churches that are as small as 100 people or less to tens of thousands of people that have choirs. What are some practical tips as far as maybe for choir directors? How do you even manage a team of people like that? How do you run rehearsals with them? How often do you do rehearsals?
How much time do we have?
24 hours?
Yeah, I would say from our standpoint, it's a weekly thing. It's a community building time. Our choir rehearsals are not just musical rehearsals, but we pay attention to what's happening in the environment of the room. We're celebrating our people. We're celebrating people's stories. Even when people are coming into the room, they're seeing slides go up on the screen of people and their stories, and we're highlighting them, letting them know who's in our midst. We've got family groups established in those choirs. The first thing I would say to anybody that's leading bivocationally or they're doing that is they need to identify leadership that are volunteers in the 1 or 2 or the 3 or more that will help you build into the life of the thing. So from a practical standpoint, you can only touch and connect with so many people. And so it's very important that there's an infrastructure of connection and community and leadership built throughout how to scale, whether you have 10 people singing with you or 500. And so we're meeting weekly. That's about an hour and a half. We make very good use of everyone's time. There's worship, there's teaching, and there's rehearsal. And all of that is very intentional and very planned, and making sure that we're connecting with everybody. I don't know. That's a very short answer, but
cool.
Charles, what do you guys?
Well, it's a great answer, and that's exactly our approach on Wednesday nights. We have a Wednesday night rehearsal. We're unique in that we don't ever actually combine the band and the orchestra and all that stuff with the choir until Sunday morning, so that nobody ever hears what it's going to sound like until the first service. But we've just been doing it a long time, and so we never have really an issue. But we approach it very much the same way as Michael does, with teaching, rehearsal, with worship, with just encouraging testimonies, representing people who are within the congregation of the choir. A couple of practical things I would bring up would be, I'll just say 2 things. First of all, our mindset of rehearsal is that we don't rehearse until it's right. We practice it until it's right, and then we rehearse it as it's right, which is a little bit different in the sense that sometimes it takes more time, but we really believe that if you just practice something until you get it right and then you move on, then you've only done it right one time. And so we want to get in the mindset and the heart of our people to get it right and then keep it right, because we tend to lose memory between Wednesday and Sunday. Another thing we don't do is we don't hold folders, we don't use music. We just get people to learn the music, which has created a lot of freedom in our worship services. A lot of churches I go to, I'll send them a simple worship chorus to learn, and I'll just say, hey, just tell them to learn the melody. Just learn the melody. They don't have to learn 4 parts, and they don't have to remember what measure we're at. Just learn the melody. And it's amazing how many churches will call me back and say, oh, man, we really need the music. And I'm thinking, no, you don't. You're just tied to that because it's become a crutch. And so we've really worked for years with our people, just trying to remove any crutches and mindsets with the music that would hinder them from being able to worship on Sunday mornings. Because what we want them to do is worship on Sunday morning. And you can't worship if you're tied to trying to figure out, well, do we repeat this measure? Or is it the soprano line, or I can't really, we don't, we're past Wednesday night, we don't mess with that stuff, because we look at Wednesday night as the time to set and make the meal, and then Sunday morning we're going to enjoy it.
Yep. Here. Definitely, we're flying in that same zone, and I think it's, and so much of the musical rehearsal is one aspect, and then there's about 90% of leadership that goes into the idea of making these environments healthy. And so I would just say to any leader that's out there, whether you're leading bivocationally, a small group, a large group, in life you are either preparing or you're repairing. And if you don't prepare the environments well, you're going to constantly be repairing, and that means setting the tone for vision and values and being very clear about what you're going to be about and what you're not going to be about. And the natural tendency of things, I mean, you've got to fight for unity. When you have a big group of people, you have to really fight for creating a unified environment. You've got to fight for no gossip. You've got to fight for the things that will creep in, the enemy will use as it scales bigger and bigger. And it's very important that that's where the enemy will try to get in as it gets wider and wider and you can't touch it anymore. You've got to build a very intentional communication line. This is who we are. This is who we will and won't be. And this is why we're doing what we're doing. So be very intentional about your communication all the time. And it will serve you well in the long run. Otherwise, you're constantly picking up pieces. And we do that anyway because we're broken people, and that's what we do. We have to work through. But I will say this: the more intentional you are on those things, especially staying light on your feet, we're trying to do that even as we build new initiatives in here, rather than saying this is the way it's going to be once and for all, saying, hey guys, we're going to start this initiative for a semester. It's going to be great. We're going to try it. We're going to see how this goes. And that's hard for a lot of people. They like to stamp a badge on 20 years of this and 30 years of this, and so, but you have to be able to adapt and grow and create a flexible environment. All those values that you hope to see in your team, you better be intentional about it. You're going to wonder why you're constantly repairing and doing damage control all the time.
Yeah, and that Wednesday night rehearsal is such a key time to communicate all that stuff. And there's more ways to communicate to your people. Obviously, we do it by way of email and phone campaigns and all this stuff too, but there's nothing like that. It's kind of like Sunday morning when the shepherd talks to the sheep, you know, Pastor Graham or Dr. Falwell or whoever is talking to our congregation. There's that one moment you kind of get when you got everybody. And that Wednesday night rehearsal to us is really key because that's when we've got everybody right there and we can communicate these values and these principles and this direction and the things that we're going. And I'm with Michael. You know, one thing that we've kind of instilled in the minds of our people is that the only thing consistent about here is change. And that's a good thing because, you know, it gives us carte blanche freedom to do whatever we want to do. And, you know, it's funny, when your people get accustomed to that, they get excited about every week because every week feels different. Every week is, you know, and it really, to me, is biblical. I was thinking about this the other day, Michael, and Wisdom and Robbie and whoever else is listening. I was thinking about this. You know, God never did the same thing twice. He used everybody differently. Every miracle, everybody is used in a different, creative way. It's never the same. And so I think that's a good inspiration for us as worship leaders and worship pastors and everything else to look at Sunday as a blank slate every week, as the opportunity to see what God is up to.
Wow, that's awesome stuff. That's really good stuff. And some of the questions that people are asking through the chat is like, do you guys use lesson plans during these rehearsals? Like, how do you come up with, you know, things to teach on and talk about?
Yeah, for us, we as a team, and I know Charles has a team of people and guys that are directing and leaders, and you know I'm the same way. I'm tending to a lot of different things in addition to choir, and we have an incredible choir director here, Rick Briscoe, and a team of guys that are on our core worship leadership team. We stack hands on things that we are trying to communicate throughout the worship ministry and the organization. And whether that's like, say, a refreshed covenant for the year that we're all going to kind of go, hey, these are the things that are important to us. And so week by week, we're going through and saying, hey, this is what it means to be devoted to one another in unity. And da-da-da-da-da. And we're going to be very intentional about those things. We're going to disseminate those through website, through email, through our time on Wednesday. And that's going to go for a certain amount of time. And then it may be, hey, guys, we are going to spend 4 weeks focused on X, Y, and Z. So it's, you know, we're not there with notebooks and outlines and all that kind of stuff, but there is excruciating intentionality with what we are communicating to our team on a regular basis. And we pray about that, we think about that, and we're trying to pay attention to what's happening in the life of the church, what's happening in the life of their lives, in the community, in the world, and address those things from a spiritual perspective and a practical perspective.
Yeah, we do a lot of the same kind of thing. You know, sometimes we'll take our people through a book together and we'll purchase a book that, at a lower price, or help, get everybody, make sure everybody has that book, and we'll go through it together. Or sometimes Scott, our choir director, will just lead in a devotion, and sometimes he goes through a series that he's working on as a devotional. But we also have the whole choir broken down into group leaders and even row leaders, to where there's a leader on every row who's responsible for about 8 to 10 people, and it's been really good, because, like Michael was saying, it just creates a sense of not only excitement to come on Wednesday night because of the spiritual growth aspect, but also because there's a sense of community in the lives and the hearts of these people, to where they look forward not just to learning new songs, but to worshiping together on a Wednesday night. And that midweek thing in the midst of a crazy world with everybody's lives in turmoil, man, there's nothing more beautiful to me than a pause in the middle of the week on a Wednesday night where we can literally just come together and worship in spirit and truth together.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you guys have any book suggestions? Somebody's asking. Ronald in the chat room is asking for book suggestions.
Well, recently we just purchased a copy of Circle Maker for everybody, and took everybody through the Circle Maker, which is a Mark Batterson book, which I'm a huge Mark Batterson fan, and so that was the most recent thing we did.
Cool.
One of our guests.
I'll tell you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robbie. Go ahead.
One of our guests, Minda, is at National Community Church, Mark's church. She just let us know.
Oh,
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, that's a great win, and I'll tell you. Obviously, there's some great smaller reads, like Face Down by Matt Redman is beautiful, or This Is the Air I Breathe by Louis Giglio. Very great devotional worship perspective kind of books. One of our team members who is at our North Campus here, his name is Stephen Miller, wrote a great, fantastic book that's called Worship Leaders, We Are Not Rock Stars. And it basically goes through and says what we are and what our roles are. And it's a beautiful thing that a lot of our team are going through right now as well. It's really, really great read, and it's not very long. It's a great thing for the teams to go through as well.
Great.
Well, we create our own resources. Like I do a thing called Words on Worship, which is it's actually a free app that I developed, and a lot of our people, what we'll do is we'll send out 5 of them every Monday, and they'll have a devotion to read every day from me. That stuff I had already written for, my concert ministry, but it's just another resources. We're always just looking for some way to touch them in some way throughout the week to just continue to spur their growth in the Lord.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, unfortunately, we're coming to a close. I feel like we could talk for hours about choirs. You guys are amazing. So thank you for sharing all that. But I do want to touch a couple of questions. One is for Michael. Will the new Prestonwood music be released through Prism? And then the second one is for Charles. How or where to get arrangements for one of your choir songs?
Well, for our purposes on the print side of what we're going to be doing, we are in conversation about who will be carrying the print side of what we're going to be doing moving forward. Rest assured, it will be offered and at the highest quality level that we can absolutely do for those of us that are worshiping with choirs. So from the recording side and the song side, we've got partnerships with Prestonwood Creative, which is emerging as a resource house as well. We're also working with distribution and potential with Integrity on the recording. So there's a lot of things coming that way, but you won't have a hard time finding it. I promise you. We will shout it from the mountaintops when all those things are sewn up.
Cool.
And I'll be one of your first customers, Michael.
Hey, listen, and I say this all the time. I didn't say this, but I tell Charles this. I send him texts every time I get a mix in the mail, in the email that says, hey, this is a new thing. Anytime you can get a guy like Charles singing one of your songs, it's a really good day. It's a really, really good day.
Well, I love
put the voice. I call him the voice. So you just put the voice on there. I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know if the song is really any good, but when he sings it,
It is. It's a great song.
It's got a thing on it. I don't know.
So which song of Wisdom were they asking me about?
Maybe it's just in general where your songs are.
Well, a lot of my stuff is with redtiemusic.com, which is a publishing entity we started here out of Liberty University and Thomas Road. A lot of the things I've done in the past we put in print under Red Tie, but also Lifeway has also been a subsidiary of the Red Tie world in that they distributed a lot of our print stuff. But for this new record, it's all going to be done through Lifeway. So either redtiemusic.com or Lifeway Worship. Those would be the two entities you can find most of my stuff.
Great. Good stuff. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, you can download our free song and the free hymn by going to weareworship.com. And we're really just grateful for you guys for taking the time to impart your insights and all your experience and just diving into this conversation with us. So appreciate what you guys are doing for the kingdom.
Well, thank you, Wisdom, and you as well, man. It's an honor to be with you. And Robbie, you have a great smile. I just want to tell you, you got a great smile. I love it.
You guys are awesome, man.
Makes me happy. Charles, good talking with you too, brother.
You too, Michael, and thank you, Wisdom and Robbie, and also everybody that was watching and part of this thing. Wish you the very best in your ministries, and thanks very much for having us.
Thanks, guys.
All right, God bless you both.
See ya.